Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Monarchs show. All right, buddy. Here we go. Get out my chair. Yeah. Okay. You see how it's working now. You ain't getting out, are you?
It's Tier List Tuesday. What's going on with y'all, big dog? And it is an amazing day for Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope that your day is going phenomenal, but if it isn't, don't let what happened at the beginning of your day. Hey, Madara, no, you got my hair. Stop, stop, you jerk. Don't let it ruin the rest of your day. Speaking of such, we said it before, we'll say it again. It is Tier List Tuesday. And today, we are going to be making a tier list comprised of the top rogue decks for May 2022. That's right, big dog. If you have seen my top 5 rogue decks this format and you want a little bit more information on what particular rogue decks you can play, well, don't worry. The moment he stops pulling at my hair, we'll go ahead and start. Let's go ahead and jump on into this tier list, as I have 5 different categories here. Top rogue are the strongest of the strongest rogue decks. These rogue decks are going to give you the best opportunity to be able to win against some of the other decks in Yu-Gi-Oh right now. Next is the really good strategies. Make no mistake, these strategies are not bad Yu-Gi-Oh strategies. They just take a little bit more effort than it would for a top rogue deck. Takes a really good pilot is exactly what it sounds like. Either you need to be a master of this particular strategy in and out to be able to succeed competitively with it, and then a lot of effort is another thing that almost is self-explanatory. These strategies aren't necessarily bad, but do require a lot more effort on top of being a really good pilot with the strategy. Of course, there is everybody's favorite, oh no, what are you doing, baby? This is where I try to refrain from putting a lot of decks, but if it does take a lot of resources, time, money, great pilot, and still is substandard inside of the format, you gotta go there. And starting off with this tier list, we're going to begin with Predaplants. Now, Predaplants actually did get some support inside of Dimension Force, but unfortunately, it's still a strategy that requires a lot of effort. Now, don't get me wrong, the support inside of Dimension Force is amazing. A Fusion 2 monster that's fairly generic for Predaplants, pretty good. And saying that we keep getting Plant and Fusion support, Predaplant has actually gotten a huge boost over this course of time. The problem with Predaplants is that even when you want to make your entire board, it requires your entire hand. And a well-timed hand trap can really put you out of sorts. On top of that, he giveth and he also taketh away. This deck's biggest weakness is super polymerization, as using super polymerization not only to crack your board, but able to summon Predaplant cards against you is it just doesn't feel really good. My Predaplant players, let me know down below in the comment section, is this an accurate take? Do you think that Predaplants are a top meta deck? And why do you think so? Please don't talk about it's because of the board that you can make with this deck, because yeah, it don't come out so well. On the flip side, another strategy that got support from Dimension Force, albeit indirect, is ABC. ABC actually got support with Therion King Regulus. This card allows you to provide another form of disruption just by equipping an ABC part or maybe a Dragon Buster to this card. On top of that, there's still the Wandering Griffin Rider engine that can be played inside of this deck. It doesn't need normal summon affected monsters, and it can still make Destiny Hero Phoenix Enforcer. The reason why I feel that this still takes a really good pilot is that you must know the networks of ABC. It does seem fairly simple, right? You summon A, B, and C, but no, you have to know how to properly chain block, and on top of that, you have to properly know when and what to link summon into. This does make this a slightly more complicated deck, but to add another layer to this deck's complications is that the engines that I just talked about are not cheap. The Adventure Token engine is roughly about $300, and Destiny Hero Phoenix Enforcer, the entire package, is roughly about $150 as well. you're gonna have to invest $450 for those 2 engines in order to play this deck, at least at the highest level, and that doesn't necessarily feel good when you can take those exact same 2 engines and play either a better rogue deck or just flat out a tier 1 Yu-Gi-Oh deck. Now this does have the exact same problems as I talked about in my budget list, and it kind of carries over for rogue. It's a really good strategy if you're a dedicated player, but then that required a really good pilot now, would it? Code Talkers, we actually have a insane deck profile and live duel with the Code Talker strategy. I actually think that Code Talkers is another strategy that does take a really good pilot after sitting down and talking to my boy June and other people about this strategy. Now, Code Talkers is still an amazing deck. Being able to play the control variant, which uses the new Decode Talker Heat Soul to be able to draw resources every turn, is perfecto. And then the other version being able to extra link your opponent and then give them a Nightmare Corruptor Ibli, preventing them from special summoning while also dodging cards like Nibiru and Infinite Impermanence is also amazing. But there is a really big problem with both of those strategies. Both of them are susceptible to hand traps, especially multiple hand traps. It doesn't matter how you chain block with Code Talker, there's going to be a spot for Ash Blossom or Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit to affect this deck severely, preventing you from extra linking. As for the control version of this deck, sometimes you get hands full of hand traps and that doesn't feel good. Sometimes you get hands full of Code Talker monsters and that doesn't feel great. But overall, with the right pilot, this deck can actually go to any level event, I think, and do fairly well. Now, in my last meta tier list, I did not consider Invoked as a rogue deck by any means. Statistically, it is though. So where exactly where I put Invoked should all? I mean, easily top meta rogue. You're gonna hear this throughout the video from your peers and from opponents, but Super Polymerization is actually a fairly good card inside of this format, and any deck that can abuse Super Polymerization the best probably takes the cake. Normal summon Alistair the Invoker plus Super Polymerization has so many outs to be able to summon so many different monsters no matter what the situation is. If your opponent is on Adventure Token or other wind monsters, well, Invoked Raging is amazing. If they just so happen to have a fusion monster like Destiny Hero Phoenix Enforcer or perhaps Ice Blade the Mirror Jade Dragon, well, Alistair then becomes Invoked Agiotis. Basically, however you slice it, that Alistair the Invoker can morph itself into any monster in this extra deck just because of Super Polymerization while also getting rid of your opponent's cards. On top of that, because the Invoked engine is so small, there's so many ways to play it. The Shaddoll engine immediately comes to mind because summoning a Shaddoll window to your side of the field prevents the opponent from special summoning multiple times in a turn, and then of course there's still the branded engine to be able to make the Mirror Jade of your own. Invoked is easily one of the better decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! It actually feels like cheating putting it on this rogue tier list, but statistically, I gotta go with the numbers. But moving forward, Burning Abyss is a strategy that does take a really good pilot. One thing that I do like about Burning Abyss is that it is fairly cheap. I mean, the Burning Abyss cards coming as rare or gold rare, whatever you want. I really wish they finally made ultra rare copies of these cards is amazing. And then the most expensive card that comes to mind with Burning Abyss is, Divine Arsenal AA Zeus, maybe? It's definitely hand traps if you decide to go that route, but Burning Abyss does take the correct pilot. It feels like when you're playing Burning Abyss, if you're not playing it correctly, you're playing in an uphill battle where any mistake that you make is severely a loss. Or if your opponent makes mistakes, well, I mean, they can always recover because you're playing Burning Abyss. With that being said, for a player that knows their stuff, a mistake-free Burning Abyss game is definitely enjoyable to watch and also very fun to be a part of. B-Troopers. I really have to say, B-Troopers is another strategy that takes a really good pilot. One thing about B-Troopers that you do get Contact C inside of the format, and anytime the C cards become fairly relevant, B-Troopers does get a significant boost. There's also Retaliating C being a really good card right now. I really don't care about what they summon with Lubellion and doing all that other stuff and then being able to shuffle back. Just keep in mind, everything else is banished. I do though feel that B-Troopers and its players were shafted just when they started to get support to take them to the right direction. Konami decides to go with Libromancers instead of at least finishing off the B-Troopers. And now that I think about it, having a generic B-Trooper fusion monster where Super Polymerization does run around, if your deck ever becomes meta, you already at a disadvantage for a card that you don't even play. B-Troopers are a fairly good solid deck. Those hand traps can actually ride a few wins with the correct player. Blue Eyes, guys. Oh my God. Okay, mad shout out to the person that I played at regionals. He showed me the light. Blue Eyes are not a oh no, what are you doing, baby? I feel that Blue Eyes, oh man, I'm gonna say in this format, Blue Eyes is pretty good. Now, I was really teetering between it takes a really good pilot and really good, and here's my reasoning. Skill Drain will literally clap so many players' cheeks outright. Like, if you just flip up Skill Drain, your monsters are typically bigger than your opponent's monsters. Just summon enough Blue Eyes cards and you win. I will apologize to the Blue Eyes community. I severely underestimated Blue Eyes Jet Dragon. Yes, it does summon itself when cards are destroyed, but hear me out. It summons itself when cards are destroyed, your opponent's cards included. A really solid Blue Eyes player can take this strategy to the lengths, but one thing I do want to point out is that there are a lot of glue-eating Blue Eyes players, but it doesn't matter. Skill Drain will probably get them the win as well. I accidentally have 2 spots for Blue Eyes, so I'm going to go ahead and skip. Cyber Dragon is also an insanely powerful deck. Not only does Therion's King Regulus does help the strategy out, being able to provide a source of negation as well as disruption for the opponent being able to disrupt you, the Branded Engine makes Cyber Dragons a 1-card OTK. Being able to use Branded Fusion to be able to pile through into your Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon and then send the necessary parts for it to attack enough times for going for game is phenomenal. And Branded Fusion's drawback to only being able to fusion summon, well, I mean, if you're going for the OTK, you really don't care about any drawbacks, right? Also, players are giving no respect to Cyber Dragon. They're special summoning Synchro, Fusions, whatever they can inside of the extra monster zone. That sounds like free Cyber Dragon bait, just summoning a monster and getting rid of it. Moving forward, Dinomorphia, even with the new support, I'm not gonna put it in, oh no, what are you doing, baby? Because I haven't thoroughly tested out the new support, but Dinomorphia does feel like a lot of effort. There is one thing I will give Konami credit for. Dinomorphia trap cards have the ability to banish themselves for taking effect damage, and at first thought I was like, why do we need that? But with cards like Long Yuan being able to burn for 1200, Masquerade the Blazing Dragon being able to burn for 1200 per action, yeah, you kind of need that. For the people that were wondering why Dinomorphia Theresia was going up in price, or according to my Twitter, Binomorphia Theresia was going up in price, it wasn't because the strategy was seeing heavy competitive play, it's because players in the OCG were combining it with their Despia strategy, but you have to keep in mind, OCG plays a completely different card game. We still have a faster access to the Adventure Token engine. Unless the Forbidden List solves that, Binomorphia Theresia and the Binomorphia cards, I probably would hold off on them right now. Zombie World is easily a top rogue deck. It is a reason why players are citing Zombie World. It is a complete blowout against some of the best decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Sword Soul, hand them an L. Fluendereese, hand them an L. There are way too many strategies, like seriously, that are so reliant on their monsters needing to be their exact same type. Well, Zombie World not only does get the correct support in Dimension Force to put it in the trending direction, Zombie World itself is just a blowout card against a lot of decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Despia is, I have no idea why it's here, guys. I'm just gonna kind of skip over this. This is not a rogue deck whatsoever. It is 100% one of the best decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! But Monarchs, oh man, it feels like our first one, Playboy. We finally here. Let me, oh no, what are you doing, baby? Look, I am sorry, Monarch players, but you have all of the requirements here. You got a walking skill drain in the Monarchs Erupt. You can prevent your opponent from special summoning from the extra deck with Domain of the Monarchs. Why isn't your strategy good? I know you're probably asking it. You and I both know playing Monarchs is like building a house. It comes with a lot of bricks. If Monarchs got consistent, I think that would be one of the most scariest things in Yu-Gi-Oh! But for right now, until they get consistent, it ain't happening. Live Twin, where would I put Live Twin? I think in the last tier list, we put it in the top rogue. This tier list, I'm gonna say it's a tweener between takes a really good pilot and just really good. The problem with Live Twin is that you are locked into Live Twin a lot of times, which doesn't allow you to play those extra engines. The Branded Engine and Destiny Hero Phoenix Enforcer aren't necessarily unplayable inside of this deck, but this is gonna struggle inside of a format where players can definitely disrupt that one monster that you need to summon and keep on your field at all times, and of course, have the resources to be able to play through your hand traps or punish you for activating card effects on your main phase. Frightfur is in the perfect format right now. I think that Frightfur is another really good deck. I think the best way to play Fight for maybe right now is not to play any hand traps, playing going second cards like Triple Tactics Talent and Forbidden Droplets, negating your opponent's board, and swiftly going for the OTK. Hand traps are still really good inside of this card game, but spell cards are amazing, and anytime spell cards can thrive inside of a Yu-Gi-Oh format, Fluffles definitely become a way better deck. Moving forward, is Pendulum a top rogue deck? I think it's more towards takes a really good pilot. The reason why I say this is because in order to play Pendulums to its best of ability, playing going second cards like Forbidden Droplet and Triple Tactics Talent, there's not a lot of room for that. Hand traps also are not really considered inside of a Pendulum deck, making it extremely vulnerable when going second. Now, Pendulum does have a lot of opportunities to be able to play through your opponent's boards, but don't you think that would take a really good pilot to know the interactions between all of your Pendulum cards, to know the interactions between your opponent's cards, and then being able to play those cards perfectly through their board? Yeah, I would probably say that that does take the correct pilot. Beyond Pendulum does give you a heavy Metal Foes Electromite, which does help, but I still think it takes a very good pilot to be able to play Pendulum to its highest capabilities. We're in a format where fusion monsters rank supreme and negation cards are low. I feel that Infernoid may be in the take a really good pilot, but that just might be hopium. I'm gonna put it in a lot of effort. The biggest reason why I put Infernoids in a lot of effort is because yes, you have a lot of great things going for you. Using your Infernoid monsters effects to banish your opponent's card effects in graveyard when they activate the effect of Brandon and Red is amazing. Also, being able to stop some of their cards or their recursion cards is also great. But the biggest problem with Infernoids is being able to activate and resolve consistently Void Imagination. If you find a way to add, search, activate, and resolve Void Imagination consistently, your opponent just might be in trouble. Earth Machine, boys. Easily top rogue. Again, guys, we are there. Not only can Earth Machine utilize Skill Drain, but it can also use Goes in Match and Rivalry of the Warlords, cards that really work well in conjunction with one another. Therion's King Regilegs does provide protection for its full combo, meaning that an Ash and a Ghost Belt are literally not the end of your day. Also, being able to special summon huge monsters to your side of the field, those big body monsters to completely beat any monster in any situation, is something that this deck 100% needs. Earth Machine has also already been topping a few regional events here and there. It is easily a top rogue deck. Now, Heroes, I would put in the exact same spot as Fluffles. I think Heroes are best served as a going second deck, being able to use cards like Triple Tactics Talent, Lightning Storm, blow out your opponent, and you guys should already know about this deck's OTK capabilities. The problem with Heroes is that even with reprints to cards like Vision Hero Ferris, Vision Hero Vion, and also reprints to Element or Evil Hero Adusted Gold and Malicious Bane, this deck is still incredibly expensive. It's kind of ridiculous how expensive this strategy is. A lot of times this hero strategy does feel like a lot of effort, but if we're talking about in competitive terms, I think that it's a fairly solid going second deck. And again, Super Polymerization could work in your favor inside of this format. Just don't think that, Master Hero Dark Law is gonna be the end all be all win card for you. And putting a Master Hero Dark Law with a Destiny Hero Phoenix Destroyer on the field, you're just asking to be super polyed here, bro. Mech Knights easily move in as another really good strategy. This is another one of those great going second decks. We got all three of the great going second decks in the really good status because your opponent is not summoning a board full of negations. Going second decks are very, very viable. Being able to manipulate columns and gain advantage, resolving the effect of Mech Knight Blue Sky when your opponent has 3 cards in the same column. Whoa. Mech Knight is also very compatible with a lot of engines in Yu-Gi-Oh! You can play Destiny Hero, Phoenix Enforcer. If you want to be really spicy, the Adventure Token engine is still really good. And Invoked is actually really good with Mech Knight, especially getting you advantage to be able to super polymerize your opponent's boards. Super polymerize. What does that mean? Plunder Patrol is easily a really good strategy in this card game, mainly because the format does consist of dark and light monsters, so being able to special summon your Plunder Patrol fusion monster and your Exceed monster just got a lot easier. Also, the Adventure Token engine is amazing with this deck. It's probably one of the most well-blended decks with the Adventure Token engine and Magician Souls. I do think that a way for Plunder Patrol to be able to adapt into the format is maybe play a little less hand traps, Ash Blossom and Ghost Bell at the max, and then start playing a little bit more going second cards. Forbidden Droplet and Triple Tactics Talent are definitely the wave right now and are really good inside of this format. Phantom Knights, guys. Phantom Knights, man, genuinely, Phantom Knights are slept on, guys. Phantom Knights are really top rogue. Despite being in a format where players can interact with your Cherubini Ebon Angel of the Burning Abyss before you can get its effect, and on top of that, you're playing a lot of dark monsters, meaning that you're prone to super polymerization if your opponent plays Starving Venom. This deck actually has some really good redeeming qualities. If you do decide to play the Artifact Size Lock, keep in mind when you're going against decks like Despia, that can be an FTK against them. But as you do know, there are a lot of decks that don't rely on their extra deck, a top deck like Fluundereese, but I think that's where Phantom Knight is actually able to balance itself out. Phantom Knight's Fog Blade not only can negate Fluundereese cards, but is a means of extension. Also, the Phantom Knight strategy can play almost forever. This deck keeps summoning cards to the side of the field and does not give up. I think that Phantom Knights are an incredible strategy, and it's almost an understatement to say that this deck is rogue, but statistically, it makes it to the rogue tier list. Solomon Great requires a really good pilot or takes a really good pilot. I'm going to go ahead and say takes a really good pilot. My biggest reason why Solomon Great isn't as great as it should be is because you're playing in the format where your opponent can continuously generate advantage like this. Solomon Great really can't do that. You have two particular modes for Solomon Great right now. You have OTK your opponent or hope to draw your Solomon Great Rage and Roar. And to be honest, I think Solomon Great Rage and Roar should probably be maxed out in this deck right now. But if you do theoretically have your Solomon Great Rage or Roar, being able to set it and then use it to stop your opponent's most important play, following up with an Axis Code Talker 5300 attack and can attack twice, is game. It does take a really skilled Solomon Great player to be able to realize that and being able to play it correctly, but I do think it is a good deck. Moving forward, we have Dinos, guys. You already know, Dinos is a top rogue. I think despite the fact that people are playing Zombie World, which does check Dino really, really hard, this is an amazing strategy. Miscellaneous Ceres protects all of your dinosaur monsters, and players aren't playing Lynx, so use that Ultimate Conductor Tyranno to flip those monsters face down. If you put a Pentastag on top of it, well, you probably have game. Not only does Lost World give your opponent a 0/0 token, a lot of times if they're playing the Adventure engine, well, I mean, there's another token. On top of that, Lost World can protect any token monsters on the field to be able to get your combo going. This deck got a lot more consistent with more token monsters running about, or token decks running about. Lastly is Dark Magician. It's actually a miracle where I would say Dark Magician is worse than Blue Eyes. Dark Magician is not bad. Red Eyes Dark Dragoon is still a pretty decent Yu-Gi-Oh card, and Skill Drain is something that this deck can play. I think Dark Magician hands down biggest problem because I was actually going to play it at the regionals. The brand engine does amazing with this strategy, but not having enough targets to be able to consistently make Magician Souls feel great is what hinders Dark Magician. Once Dark Magician gets a bigger variety of spell cards to make Magician Souls feels good, you better watch out for this deck, as it has multiple ways to search Magician Souls. You can max out on Illusion and Chaos and Preparation of the Rites, because those cards can actually search other Dark Magician cards, which makes your deck so fluid. And of course, this is a strategy that can play Super Polymerization and doesn't necessarily need its extra deck. Dark Magician is trending up despite it being a strategy that does take a really good pilot. And that is all that I have for the Rogue tier list. Please let me know what you agree with, what you disagree with, but most importantly, just post down below in that comment section. Also, if you want to see more amazing TheCaliEffect videos, you can go ahead and check out these videos, and also be sure to check out Master Duel Cali. I got some spice over there. I hope you are having an amazing day, and I'll catch you on the next video.